This is something of an addendum to the last installment on the way of the feminine. I mentioned the patterns that Maria Gimbutas found on the statuettes, little figurines, and on the churches and gravestones in Lithuania. There's one other place where many of those patterns can be found. It's not of this world. It's people who have involved themselves in Entheogens, I believe they're called today, psychedelics, hallucinogens. Especially the DMT and experiences with ayahuasca. And if I remember correctly, also psilocybin. You'll see these patterns in the journey that's taken through those plant allies, those molecules. That's the other place. So this is something that is probably, these patterns are probably a blending of what they see in the world, how they experience the world, and as well seen in visions under those states. One good source to look into this is the works of Graham Hancock. I have a good deal of respect for him and what he's doing. His work on consciousness addresses the use of DMT and psilocybin and ayahuasca, particularly ayahuasca. In one of the talks that he gave, he went into this pretty fair amount of detail. I was a little bit surprised that he did not mention the works of Maria Gimbutas and her interpretations given to it. This points to something quite interesting, that if these patterns and whatnot came in part out of an hallucinatory experience, it's first of all, it's universal. Everyone who does these, takes these substances are going to see these patterns, or most people will anyway. And Maria elevating the status of women, realistically so, points to something that I had suspected for quite a while, which was the main shaman of the tribes in Ice Age times and on down through the Neolithic were women. Now you had male shamans, and they dealt mostly with the initiation of the boys into manhood, and they really ran them through the ringer. And also I'd say the mysteries of the hunt, what all is involved there, and the deeper regard for what you're doing. I mean, you're out there, you're taking a life, you're killing a living thing. What is that? And so rituals and so forth were, as Joseph Campbell pointed out, were devised to rid oneself of the guilt by engaging in a rich mythological life involving the hunt. But the main shaman of the Stone Age and Ice Age tribes, I believe, were women. As far as I know, there's only been one gravesite found where the person buried there was probably a shaman. And it was female grave. There was a female in the grave. They loved her so much and wanted her to stay alive as long as possible as she was getting older, that they built a chair for her sitting up on poles, and they would carry her when they'd go on their migrations. A lot of people, from time to time, the old and the sick would die on those migrations. They wanted to make sure this didn't happen to her. So they kept her alive as long as possible. And also she wore a conical cap, cone-shaped cap. It was red. I suspect it was made of fox hide, fox fur. So the person who introduced, say, psilocybin, that would have been what was available to them. The person who introduced people to the use of psilocybin and guided them along to expand awareness, to expand consciousness, to set one out of this world into a supranatural world, I suppose you could put it that way, was a woman, not a man. Like with so many other things, we've got it backwards today. Don't know this for sure, but the things do seem to point in that direction, and there is no conflict between what Graham Hancock has come up with and other people like Terence McKenna and the works of Maria Gimbutas. In fact, they fit together quite well. If the main shaman of the tribe was a woman, which I believe it was.